Parents are tired of sending their kids off to universities, paying for it, and having them lose their testimonies. Why are faith-based universities growing while secular universities are in decline? In this episode, I bring on Hale, the new president of Southern Virginia University, who I know, who has a vision for SVU and education as a whole. He asks the question, is secular college failing young adults? And promotes an anti-Ivy League model of education that's focused on classical learning, small classes, faith, and critical thinking. All of these things seem to have been carved out from most universities. We also talk about what parents should know before they send their kids off to university. This episode is brought to you by the Alaska Frontier Cruise, coming September 5th through 12th with myself, my wife, and Elaine and Steve Dalton. We'll be cruising up and down the California coast, enjoying the sea life, the wildlife, going out on great excursions, eating together, talking together, and enjoying the beauty of the Alaska coastline. To find out more, go to cwicmedia.com, CWICmedia.com, to the top to trips and events, and scroll down to Alaska Frontier. I would love to spend time with you. Here's President Hale. All right, so President Hale, there's been a lot of news about standardized testing recently. During the COVID years, we kind of went away from it going into college. You know, the requirements that everybody was looking for, we softened everything quite a bit. But recently, we've had an about face on this. You've got elite universities such as Harvard, Yale just announced they're going back to the standardized testing. Dartmouth, Brown, MIT, Penn, Stanford, they have all reinstated standardized testing. And now the UC professors, there's 800 that are demanding that they return to standardized testing. What are your thoughts on standardized testing? Is it important? And why do we have the back and forth on this?
Yeah, it is an important predictor, an important measure. The reason they're moving back to it is because they realize that it is a pretty good proxy for how well people will succeed at the university level. The other thing that they have realized is that it's actually an amazing tool for those in lower socioeconomic status to get into college, because it's a way for them to prove that they do have that knowledge and that skill set, and allows them to leapfrog kind of above what they might otherwise be able to access because of the high school they came from and that sort of thing. But it really, it is a tool. It's a narrow snapshot in time. It's how well did you perform on that day, on that series of questions. So it has its place, but it's not the be all and end all.
So why do you think they went away from it?
I think they went away from it because they thought it was hurting minority students and preventing their access to it, because they don't have, I shouldn't actually say minority, lower socioeconomic students, because they don't have the access to test prep and that sort of thing that might allow them to score higher on those tests.
And that's probably true though, isn't it?
It is. But it is true that they don't have the test prep, but at the same time, they also don't have other ways to prove their ability level. And so this was the easiest way for many of them to prove that we can succeed at the college level. And so by taking it away, you actually hinder those who they were most trying to help.
So do you think that with the about face on this, that this trend will continue for the most part, that there will be standardized testing and being involved in, have you been involved in K-12?
Yeah.
Mostly? Yeah, okay.
K-12, yeah.
Being involved with K-12 and preparing students for college, is that a focus that should be in place for that testing? I mean, should there be counseling available for this? Should there be a focus in the academic rigor and framework for the testing?
Yeah, it has a place. K-12 education, we've been doing standardized testing for decades, and allows parents to compare on a pretty even keel, one school to the next, how their students are performing. But even within our own school network, we see that those test scores move dramatically based on the area we're in. Our South Chandler campus scores super well because we're surrounded by high socioeconomic students. Our Levine campus scores well compared to all the other schools in the area, but it just doesn't score well compared to our Chandler campus because of the lower socioeconomic setting. So it really is, you have to compare it with those other schools who are in your small area to see those relative gains between the two schools. But it is value because it allows parents and students to know and be able to compare, and then also allows teachers to know what are the standards, what are people looking for, and how do we prepare them for that.
Is there a way, I mean, I'm guessing you've focused on this in the past because you've been running charter schools for so long. Is it charter or private? Charter schools, yeah. What is the secret sauce to helping students advance education in their education when they don't maybe have that structure? Because if you're looking at lower socioeconomic areas, you might be looking at maybe a little less parental support, perhaps, or maybe there's a single parent or whatever it might be. So is there something you're able to focus on in the K-12 space to help support those individuals?
Yeah, part of what we've done is removed in some respects, we removed some of the homework, some of the busy work that schools send home, because we realized it doesn't add true value. And it's really hard for those students who don't have the parental support, who their parents are working all the time. We've added before and after school care programs where we focus on doing their homework and doing additional tutoring. We've added morning and afternoon tutoring for those kids, really trying to give them the help and the support that they aren't getting at home. Not because the parents don't care about them, just because the parents are wrapped up in survival and working just to put food on the table. And so those kids need that extra help. And from a parent standpoint, I think the biggest thing that any parent can do is help their kids to read more. Just reading is one of those things that's going to prepare them for all those standardized tests, for the SAT, for the ACT, and just for life. Better readers just do better in life. And so that's one of the key things that a parent can do to prepare them. If nothing else, is get them reading books and off of screens.
How much time do public schools waste on time in their education? I'm giving you an example. So I've got a nephew that is in what will we call it? It's like a sports school, right? He's an elite athlete. He spends most of his school day, what we would call a school day, actually in the weight room and in skills and et cetera, right? He's going to be a P4 type athlete. So, but he only takes school for an hour and a half a day. And this is a really smart kid that does very well, in his testing, and, they keep the like you're saying, they keep the testing, they keep him up above a certain area in their testing and make sure they're not going to fall behind because they're going to want the offers from whether it's Stanford or UCLA or wherever else it might be, BYU, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they need to make sure that they're ready and prepared for college too, but they're spending an hour and a half a day at school. So how is this? I had seven class periods, I remember, in high school. So we were there a long time, right? Mm-hmm. So how does that work? I mean, do you condense it? Is there a different way that we should be doing things in the K-12 space?
There for sure is. I mean, we're stuck in a model that, was developed in the early part of the 19th century or the 1900s. And it's kind of a factory model. And so you're teaching all kids at the same pace, the same progress. And so you have to teach to the middle of the class instead of to the high end of the class. And so those students who could progress faster often don't, which is why you have gifted programs and other, programs that schools do to help move those kids along, but they have to keep those lower kids moving along too. And so it's hard. That's an area where technology can help. They have some of these AI-based schools out there where they talk about the 2-hour school day and getting all that education that you need done in 2 hours so you have the time to do everything else. It's hard, and it's hard to scale that to many students. At least it has been in the past. Technology can allow us to help with that and to progress. I imagine that nephew of yours who's doing that, he's not in a class of 30 kids. He's probably in a much smaller class.
Yes.
Focused. And you can do that. When you have a teacher, when you have a smaller student to teacher ratio, you can really individualize it for those students and really progress as fast as they're able to. And it doesn't necessarily take 6 hours a day to learn all that needs to be done. A lot of that is spent in reteaching students who are behind. It's spent in transitions because you have 30 kids who are moving from one subject to the next subject. You have your specials and you're going to PE and music and lunch and all these other things. Whereas if you can cut all those out, if you're getting all your education done in the morning in 2 to 4 hours, you don't have to have lunch. You don't have to factor in all those other parts of the day, but take time.
Yeah, and I promise I'm going to get to university here in a second. But
No problem.
you have so much experience in this K-12 space. I want to ask this also. So, how has technology? Well, let's just go directly to social media. How has social media affected things? Kids with phones. We see all the. I don't know if you followed the work of Jonathan Haidt and what he's done in terms of looking at the effects of social media on teenagers, especially teenage girls, and the difference that many of these schools are reporting when there is a ban on phones while they're on campus. It's a night and day. The professor, or the teachers are all very happy with this. It changes the entire environment, and they seem to be progressing along better in their schoolwork without the phones. Do you think that social media and teenagers having phones on campus has been a big negative?
For sure. It's just simply a distraction, and it pulls them away from what they need to be focused on. Our schools are primarily K-8, and so we get some of that in the junior high level, kids getting phones. We don't have a whole lot in the second grade, third grade level, but we do have a complete phone ban. The phones are not allowed to be out during school hours, the 8 to 3. And if the teacher catches them out, they confiscate it, and the parent has to come back in and pick it up from the principal, not the student. And so there's a lot of ramifications to a student violating that rule. And so it allows the students to focus and allows them to not be distracted, because phones, all of us, we're adults. We know how distracting phones are. We're in a line at the grocery store and pull out and we play Candy Crush or who knows. It's worse for kids whose brains aren't fully formed, who are still, learning and growing and learning impulse control. And so, I'm a big supporter of banning phones in the K-12 system.
Okay. All right. To the university. So beginning of May, you were just hired as the new president of Southern Virginia University. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds like a fantastic opportunity. What do you see as, what do you want to make different about Southern Virginia University than we have in the rest of the university system and college system in the United States? What is going to make SVU stand out?
Well, first of all, it's our faith-based mission. That we really are aligned with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that really is a difference. We've seen the statistics. Nationwide, college attendance has been declining in almost all areas except for faith-based. This generation of students wants more of that faith-based education. They are kind of turning back towards God. We see it in the church and in the communities. Kids want that focus. They want that grounding in their life of having faith. And that's one of the things where we can really excel. At SVU, we have that mission focused on Christ, and our kind of our North Star, our defining mission as on campus is that we teach students to discern truth and choose Christ, that they may be prepared in all things. And that really is the lens through which we look at all of our classes and all the decisions we make is this going to help students to discern truth? Is it going to help them to choose Christ? And as we do that, we can give them a high quality, high class education and prepare them for the secular world, but also strengthen their testimonies and strengthen that foundation they have in Jesus Christ. That's going to give them much stronger foundation to sustain all the trials that come to them throughout life.
So at a university where you're aligning with the principles and values of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but you're not affiliated really with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What does that mean for your hiring practices? What does that mean for your curriculum? How do you choose that?
Yeah, so from a hiring standpoint, I'm involved in the final interview of any new faculty member because it is critical that we do want them to make sure that they are aligned with our values and our principles, and that the parents are spending a lot of money to send their kids to college. And they don't want them to come home having lost their testimony. They would rather pay any amount of money to not have that happen. And so we need to be recognizing what is the job that SVU is being hired to do. What are parents sending their kids to us for? And it is to get a good education so they can be successful in the world, but also to strengthen their testimony. And so we consider that very heavily in our hiring practices. Are the people we're hiring going to strengthen our students' testimony of Jesus Christ? And then also in our curriculum, it's weaved, throughout everything we do. As we discuss these very secular principles and discussions, we also weave in the gospel. What does the Book of Mormon say about this topic? What does the gospel say? What does the gospel of Jesus Christ teach about leadership, about math, about any aspect of it? How does the gospel pertain to this?
So this is something that, I'm looking over at BYU and I have a lot of friends over there, and I look at their mission statement and what they're trying to accomplish, and the mission that was laid out originally by President Kimball, right, over at BYU. There's a fine line, I think, that they try to hold to over there, that I find is very difficult to do, because you're doing two things at once. And I would guess, you're going to have the same issue there at SVU, is you want to create an environment and a place where the students are able to get a very good education, right? A good education. And then they want to advance perhaps in their education and their careers and their placement, et cetera. But how do you position the university in a place among broader academia that is so secular, in terms of accreditation, in terms of acceptance of students that want to go on to get their master's or PhD, et cetera, in a certain discipline? How do you position that, and where do you see that going?
There's actually a fair amount of respect for faith-based institutions. I'm actually going to a conference next week for faith-based universities, and the accreditation board, SACS COCs, who is our accreditor, have been very supportive of the fact that we offer actual college credits towards a degree for institute classes, and our graduate placement rate is above 90% of our students who want to go to law school or medical school. 90% get in, and about 40% of our students go on to graduate degrees. So it's been very positive. Other institutions accept our degrees and don't have a problem with the faith-based nature of it.
Okay, so I'm not worried about the faith-based nature. I'm just wondering about the discrimination, maybe, or a bias towards certain. Is SVU completely? Is it? How would you compare it, for example, to a Hillsdale college?
It compares favorably in terms of the academic rigor, and though we are different. Hillsdale is more that classical model, though we are very similar in terms of that Socratic discussions in the classroom. Focus on the classic books, the great teachers and learners. And so our core model focuses actually very similar to what Hillsdale is doing in terms of building out that whole person. And we talk about the arete of education, and really it's not about credentialing, which is what it's kind of moved into, but it's about formation. How do you form adults who are going to be critical thinkers, who are going to be able to ask those questions? Especially now in the age of AI, AI, things that are easy to credential are also easy to automate away. And so it's harder to automate away that critical thinking and to automate away the questioning. And that's really what we need to be teaching our students, especially in this age of AI, is how do you question AI? How do you push back against the narratives that it spits out for you? How do you utilize it as a tool and not as a crutch to do the thinking for you? And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves at SVU, is teaching those critical thinking skills and building the whole person and building leaders who can really utilize the tools as they develop.
That is a fantastic answer. I will say that's a fantastic answer. I see this also. I'm involved with a homeschooling curriculum that is the very focus, right? It's the same thing. What about the critical thinking? What about the classics? Stanford, for example, in their current classics course, they don't read any of the classics in their classic course. They only read commentary and reviews and books, mostly from a kind of this postmodern lens on literary criticism of the classics. And so it's like removing you from that first original layer of what is this, and giving you a lens already on how to think, not how to think, what to think about the classics, instead of giving you an opportunity of how to think about the classics.
Yeah, an example, we have Dr. Cox, one of our professors, teaches an American history course on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And the students read them, and then they take positions and they have a debate as if they were at the Constitutional Convention.
That's cool.
Debating the various aspects of what went into the Constitution and why it's important. And that debate process forces them to think critically about those true key concepts of our government and key concepts of our society in general, and allows them to be more critical thinkers when questions like that arise in their life as they move forward, throughout their lives, and people say different things. They have that ability to think and to question and to see both sides of it.
So you had stated recently, I saw in an article about your hiring, that you want a Christ-centered university done well. Or a Christ-centered university done well is one of the most powerful forces for good in a young person's life.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What is a Christ-centered university done well?
Part of it is the smaller nature of Southern Virginia University. We're not 35,000 kids. We're not 25,000 kids. We're 1 to 3,000 kids. And that ability means that you're taught in classes with 30 kids with your professors. So our higher division classes have 10 or 12 kids. And so your professors know you very well. And you're not in a lecture hall with 300 students. You know your professors. And if you're not there, the professor knows who's missing. And they know you well enough that they're the ones who are writing recommendation letters. That's why we have such a high acceptance rate to grad school, because you know your professors. They know you. They know your strengths. Our professors are our advisors. We don't have a professional advising team. It's the professors who do that and who help guide you to the best school that will fit for you and to achieve the outcomes you want to achieve. And so that's really one of the benefits of SVU, is that our smaller size allows us to be more personal. It also allows us to really address the whole person. And that, that you talked about the Christ-centered education done well. We, unlike some of the other CES schools, we don't have a ecclesiastical endorsement, because we don't have access to the bishop and stake presidents the way they do. And so we accept everyone, regardless of what their spiritual background might be. And so we get a lot of students who come to SVU who don't feel like they could either pass an ecclesiastical endorsement or fit in that sort of environment. But they come to SVU and they're surrounded by returned missionaries, and we're surrounded by people of faith. And it's not a high pressure thing, but it's simply what is done. Everyone goes to church on Sunday. And so, you're on the volleyball team and you're not really active, but all your friends are going. And so you just go with them because that's what everyone's doing. I talked to numerous students when I was back, right the week before graduation, right before I started. We just kind of went around and talked to kids in the library as they're studying for finals. And the number of students who came with no intention of ever serving mission, who had mission calls, it was fun to see that change that had happened in their life, because they're simply surrounded by other good people. And they felt the Spirit, and they were able to make their own choices about doing those religious things. And they made the choice to try it and saw the change in their life. And that's really what kind of the value and the miracle of SVU, what it can provide for these kids.
So SVU has got a program where a student is able to get credit for, as you mentioned already, Institute as an example.
Right.
And also, is there other areas where they're able to get credit in terms of life experience?
Yeah. So we just launched our Knight's Crest program, which is our credit for recognized experience, service, or training. And it's really to give, we can give up to 24 credits, 12 for language. So if you learn a foreign language, that's pretty standard. Most universities do that. But another 12 for prior learning of different things that you learned on your mission, leadership, communication skills, organization, professionalism, digital communication. These are all competencies that are well documented. They're in the accreditation literature, and the accreditation allows credit for prior learning for things like that, for military service, for mission service, even for full-time parenting and caregiving. All those are things that we recognize now with our Knight's Crest program. And students can come, a return missionary who came and spoke a foreign language can come get 24 credits with us, which wipes off an entire year of their degree. And it's not free credits. It's simply us recognizing the learning that's already happened through their service experience, through their mission or military, or even being a full-time parent for a number of years. Those things, we bring them in, they create a portfolio, they document it, it's reviewed by professors. So these are legitimate credits, legitimate recognition of the experience and the learning that they've already achieved.
So where they've spent time in service somewhere else, a lot of that time actually can count toward their college degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. We have one student who, when this program came out, he's working on his portfolio right now. He's been a current student with us. And so he's going to be able to graduate next May instead of taking 2 more years. So he's going to get into law school a full year sooner than he otherwise would. Just kind of launch his degree, launch his life faster. And that's really what we're trying to do, is recognize the service of these missionaries, of these military veterans, and help them to progress faster in their life because of the skills that they've already acquired.
Give me an example of what you see as a standard experience of a student who's going to go to SVU. What would they expect? What would a parent expect for their kid going to SVU?
They're going to come and they're going to learn, and they're going to be surrounded by other students who are learning and who want to remain faithful in the gospel. We have 5 YSA wards that are very active in a very small community. Buena Vista is only 6,000 people. And so everyone is involved in Institute. It's the largest institute east of the Rockies. And the students come and they're surrounded. The town is small. And so there's not a lot of other outside things for them to do. So most of their activities revolve around campus. Freshmen live in the dorms. They have a meal plan. So they're eating all their meals on campus together with other students. The activities are happening there in the quad, and there's always fun games and performances going on. And it's just a chance for them it really is a residential college experience, unlike what we experience in many other places. I don't know about you. I went to ASU, but I was already married. I lived off campus. I started living at home, and I never lived on campus. I never really had that residential feel. But even then, ASU is 60,000 kids. It's not, it's a small city, actually a mid-sized city. It's not even a small city. And so you never get that really small town feel. That SVU, you have this small, tight-knit community. Everyone knows each other, but yet it's still large enough for them to find eternal companions. There's plenty of people there for them to find the right fit. A good blend of kids straight out of high school, lots of returned missionaries. So it's really a fun experience.
Where would you like to take the university in your time there? Where is this going to go? What is your vision for what it will become?
Well, part of the problem is that SVU remains a hidden gem. And we don't want it to be hidden. we need more people. We want more people to know about it. Our goal is to grow on-campus enrollment. Right now it's for about 1,000 students. We want to grow it to more like 2,000 to 3,000 students. And then we're also adding an online component as well. And because we have a lot of students who, for one reason or another, have to leave SVU. It's a small town. Maybe they can't find a job, or they need to be backed by parents, support family, but would want to continue education with us, but they can't because we haven't had an online school up till now. So we plan on launching kind of a soft launch this fall for our existing students, and then a full launch in 2027, so that we can really accommodate students wherever they are, wherever they want to be, and learning whatever mode works best for them.
What based on what we've talked about here, what would you want a parent to know? You've probably covered a lot of this already, but what would you want a parent to know about SVU as an option for their students to attend?
Yeah, I want parents to understand that SVU is a faith-based university. Their students, if they send their kids to us, they're not going to lose their testimony. It's going to be strengthened. They're going to be surrounded by professors, by other students who believe in Jesus Christ and who that is their guiding principle. And Becky and I in particular care about these young adults. It's something that we've cared about deeply for many, many years in our various callings and various activities and scholarship programs that we've done. It's such an important time of life for these young adults, this decade of decisions. And we're going to take care of your kids as if they are our own. I have 11 kids, 4 grandkids. We love kids, and we have 7 of our kids who are coming with us to campus. And so we're going to be an active part of campus life and being there amongst the students. And we love your students. We love your kids. And we're going to take good care of them and help them to grow academically, but also grow spiritually. Fantastic.
Lastly, what is it that you're taking from your previous experience in running it was roughly 30, I think, campuses in charter schools to SVU. What is the experience, and how is that going to be leveraged at SVU?
Part of it is that business side of understanding what is it that the consumers want. Who are our consumers? It's students and it's parents. What are they looking for? And then catering to that, providing them the best environment, the best experience, and really bringing more of a business mindset to it. 20 years of experience in the entrepreneurial side of education, and bringing that to grow SVU in ways that will allow us to better serve students. I built $500 million worth of educational facilities. We want to be able to build new facilities at SVU, new dorms, new cafeterias, new gyms. So I bring that background and that history, as well as improving our academic performance, continuing to hire the best professors in the country so they can provide that unique one-on-one experience with students and help them to achieve all they can and to grow and be the best version of themselves that they can be.
Well, President Hale, appreciate your time. Congratulations again. This is something that we talk a lot about on the channel in terms of education, and especially getting that liberal arts and that classical education that is, I think, really been lost in the university system to some degree. Again, veneers that are placed over this idea of critical thinking and what we might call the good, learning the good. And so this is a fantastic thing, and I would recommend that anybody who is listening to this, that you just at least go over and take a look at SVU. Where would they find SVU?
Yeah, so our website is svu.edu. If they're interested in our Knights Crest program, they just go to svu.edu/crest and come and take a look at us. Reach out to us. We're here. We want to be on that conversation for students who want a faith-based education. We think we're the best opportunity, the best option for them. We want them just to consider us and take a look at us and give us a call, and we can help them make it work.
President Hale, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate it. Have a great day.